The revolution will not be televised.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own ya, we own ya. We only getting started now, cause we own ya. Everybody think they know me now, cause we own ya. You and I'm a homie now, cause we own ya.
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. I'm Matt, that's Alonso, that is Christy. Alonso and I did a quick review of Black Panther, but hey, we're gonna take 2 bites of the apple. We're gonna do it again, because this movie is so good, it deserves 2 reviews.
It's so good.
Because now Christy's seen it, and
I've
she
seen
gets to join in. So Christy, will you describe it for us?
I will. Okay, so Chadwick Boseman, he has been Jackie Robinson, he has been James Brown, he has been Thurgood Marshall. Now he is T'Challa, the heir to the throne of the fictional African nation of Wakanda. Although Trump probably thinks it's real, right? They call it a shithole country, I'm sure.
There was somebody on Twitter who was like, I will pay any member of the White House press corps $300 if they will ask Trump about like our relations with Wakanda. No one did it.
I've never been there, I don't want to go. So anyway, so he's the heir to the throne in Wakanda, which looks externally like it is very rural and very simple, but it is actually like the most high-tech place on the planet. And he's about to ascend to the kingdom. But there is somebody else who might also be in line to take over the throne, played by Michael B. Jordan with the awesome name of Killmonger. Take a look.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. Wakanda forever! The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
This movie's badass. You know, it is totally as advertised. Like all the hype, and there was so much hype from those early screenings. You went to the premiere, right?
Yeah.
And I thought nothing could possibly meet this hype, and it does. It's totally different visually. Its rhythms are different. Its casting is spectacular, and I love that in a superhero movie. It is not necessarily Wonder Woman, that the women are the ones who are the strongest one. The women are the ones who make this world go, and they're fantastically cast, and they're smart, and they're strong, and I love it.
Yeah, no, if anything, and I think I pointed this out in the other review, it's Black Panther is almost a secondary character in his own movie because the 3 women around him are so fascinating. The Denai Guerrera is the general of the army and the head of the Dora Milaje.
The Dora Milaje.
And then Lupita Nyong'o as a spy and his ex-girlfriend, and Letitia Wright as Shuri, his sister, who is the Q/Tony Stark of this movie.
She's so funny.
She makes Tony Stark look like he's barely like finished with Lego robotics, right? Like she is the most advanced scientist on Earth, and she's what, a 16-year-old girl?
Yeah.
That's
Is she
awesome.
a teenager?
Yeah.
That was
she's
the
a teenager.
implication, yeah.
I don't know. And then of course Angela Bassett.
Yes.
Yes,
Is
the Queen
she
Mother.
Just shows up and she's just like radiating like grace and power. Yeah, I was thrilled. It's fun and it's important, but it's also really, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who is waiting and probably will be waiting a long time for one of the many like queer DC or Marvel superheroes to get their own movie, I can't imagine being like a black comic book nerd and seeing this movie. Like, I mean, obviously, yes, there's been Blade and there's been, was the Will Smith?
Meteor Man?
Hancock. Hancock, thank you. I mean, like there have been, and we've had, Falcon and War Machine and, Cyborg now. But this movie is not just so black, but so African, and we don't pay a lot of attention to Africa in the Western media. Like there's Sense8 and there was Queen of Katwe a couple years ago, and every so often like some really depressing documentary about child soldiers or something. But like this is just this gorgeous movie that is set on a continent of the planet, that is there, but movies are never made about it in this country.
Right. Yeah, Ryan Coogler, who directed it, and he brings his indie sensibility to it. He did Fruitvale Station, he did Creed, both of which starred Michael B. Jordan, and he brings that emphasis on character to it and a different kind of narrative structure. I mean, yes, it's still like a 3-act structure where you have to have the ultimate showdown that they're all building toward. But in between are moments and interactions that feel true dramatically and feel substantive dramatically. And I just have to assume that that is Ryan Coogler bringing his indie background to this. He also brings Oakland to it, his hometown. So a lot of it takes place in Oakland. But I read an interview with him with the Associated Press, with Lindsay Barr, who has my old job at the Associated Press, and that he never felt what it meant to have ancestors from Africa until he started working on this film, and that pride and that joy shines through.
I think what the better Marvel movies are going to be, and they have been for a while now, are basically the filmmakers who can sort of fulfill the overarching need of like, okay, in this movie we have to get the character to this endpoint because of these next 3 movies, and we have to do, there's the boxes that have to be checked off, but it's a question of making that journey interesting and not making us notice the formula so much. So what Coogler does here, what Taika Waititi does in Thor Ragnarok, what James Gunn has done in the Guardians movies, it's like, I'm making the meal that Marvel wants me to make, but I'm throwing in my own, spices.
See, I think Coogler's done, as much as I love what James Gunn did, especially with the first Guardians, and what Waititi did with Thor Ragnarok, I think Coogler has done something really, really impressive that I'm not sure any of the other Marvel directors have done, in that he delivers a movie that delivers on the promise of action and fun, because it's a comic book movie, right? Like, this is absolutely a 4-color comic story, but he manages, like you said, to give us real characters that have real relationships and have arcs. Each one of them has some, or if not each one of them, they all have some level of arc to varying degrees that are paid off by the end of the film. Plus, there is some, this is a movie that is aware, Wakanda exists in an Africa that's not far off from the Africa we have in our own universe. And they acknowledge that, and they acknowledge like there's a debate within the political power structure of Wakanda, like what's our responsibility to the rest of the continent and the rest of the world, and that keeps it kind of grounded in this nation that otherwise looks practically like it's out of the Jetsons, right? It's so one of the things I'm really excited about is, yes, there's some political stuff in it, but it's kind of seamless with what they're telling. And then the other thing, and I mentioned this in our earlier review, I think that this is one of the better villain journeys that we've seen.
Oh, no question.
I mean, certainly Eric Killmonger is one of the better villains we've had in any of the Marvel movies. And there's this kind of tragedy about him that by the end of the film, like, I was surprised how much I was emotionally invested in Killmonger as much as I was anyone else.
Yeah, his motivations are so not like, I'm going to take over the world. Like, there's a genuine, there's a logic to his plan, and there's a reason why he has that plan, even though it's not a good idea. At least, there's it doesn't just come out of like, I'm so mad with power. Like, no, he comes from a place, and there's a dramatic purpose to it. I will say, I've seen it twice now, and some of the storytelling is a little like there are several major events in the movie that happen 3 times.
Like what happened 3 times? Can you say without giving away?
I don't want to get into spoilers on this one, but like, and after a while it's kind of like, oh this again, and so it's. There are times where I kind of felt like the pacing was not always as sharp as it might have been, but that's not a deal breaker, because when this movie is really firing on all cylinders, it's super exciting, and I love this incredible ensemble they put together. I mean, like Daniel Kaluuya and obviously the return of Andy Serkis and of Martin Freeman. Winston, I'm forgetting the name. The guy who plays the sort of rival chieftain.
Is he the Jabari?
Winston
chieftain?
Duke,
yes,
who's
great.
Really great presence, really
Sterling
sharp.
K. Brown.
Sterling K. Brown.
Forrest Whitaker.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the hits keep coming. So there are a few moments where I think it's not as the pacing isn't as taut as it might be, but I didn't mind because when it's really working, it works so well.
Yeah, I was never bored. I don't think it ever drags.
No. And I don't want to imply that it does. I just think there are times where I started noticing the structure, I guess.
I want to mention a couple of technical things. It is shot so beautifully. Rachel Morrison, who shot Mudbound, the first woman ever nominated for an Academy Award for cinematography, also shot this, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful in giant ways and in intimate ways, because it's high tech and it's shiny and it's gleaming, but it's also like, it's rural, and because they are hiding under this cloak of, oh, we're just a small African
Shepherds,
nation.
yeah.
And then also the costume design, Ruth E. Carter.
Ruth E. Carter.
Oh my goodness! And she did Chirac, she did Selma.
Yeah.
It's everything from incredibly sleek, futuristic gowns to like gorgeously detailed, like painstakingly detailed, like beaded armor, and it's gorgeous to look at. If you're in LA, go to the ArcLight because they have in the lobby of the ArcLight they have the Black Panther and the Black Panther suit, which is badass, and there are various versions of it.
And I like how they work those designs into the sort of high-tech nature of Wakanda. So like you have Daniel Kaluuya and his people all wearing the Basotho blankets, but they throw up force fields,
I did not see that coming. Did you know that was going to happen? Is it a thing in the comic?
I don't know. Maybe, probably some comic. I haven't read every single comic ever. But one of the things that, and there's been a lot of coverage of this. Like this movie is very kind of Afro-futuristic, right? And like the technology has this kind of African design sensibility that sets it apart, and the architecture. And one of the things we talked about this in the review we did earlier. They do a good job of showing that this technology is ahead of anything else that we've seen on Earth so far.
Because of?
Because of
What's the name
vibranium.
Of it? Vibranium.
Right, and
Thank you.
so the technology is, kind of the way I think about it is if, Tony Stark is building hot rods that are really cool, they're building Teslas in Wakanda.
And they're sending them into space.
Right, and they're so much farther advanced, and you can tell. The technology is smaller and more powerful and more seamless, and I think they've done a good job representing that in a world where we've already seen really high-tech stuff.
Right, and the issue that you bring up about, the notion of do we keep this to ourselves? Do we have a responsibility to share with other people? Is a very relevant topic for right now.
Yes. Isolationism.
Exactly, versus globalism, and I think they touch upon it in a really smart way.
Stay through the credits. There's one particular thing in the credits that is gonna make a lot of people really mad.
Okay, so, all right. I brought Nick with me, and we saw the first little credit sequence, and then he had to go to the bathroom, and it was late, so we left. Is there a second one?
There is.
There's a second one,
Yes,
apparently.
sit all the way through the credits for your delicious shawarma.
There are not 5 of them, but I want to say, having said that, this is very much, I believe, its own standalone Marvel movie in a lot of ways, and they don't try to do what a lot of Marvel movies do, which is like, here are Infinity Stones, and here's Baby Groot. They do reflect back on the explosion that killed T'Challa's father in Civil War, it was, right? So you see that, but that's the only real narrative tie, I feel like, to the entire Marvel universe, and it stands on its own really beautifully.
I mean, there's some things, like, again, the character who's played by Andy Serkis popped up previously in Age of Ultron.
Ulysses Claw.
We've seen Martin Freeman's CIA agent before, but yeah, for the most part, like, this is the movie where if you've been half paying attention to the Marvel universe or not at all, you are not going to be like, wait, who? What the heck? It doesn't matter.
It is a treat to see Andy Serkis not be replaced with CGI and see him in person chewing the scenery like crazy.
And see him in a little Hobbit reunion with Martin Freeman.
Yeah.
Right, you get Gollum and Bilbo.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
That's
nerds. Why don't you know this?
That was the online joke when the big lobby standees showed up and had all the faces, and the only 2 white people on it were Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis, and they said, "Oh, it's the Tolkien white guys."
That's good. That's good.
All right, so
whoever
numbers.
came up with that
really
is a genius.
8.8.
8.8, yeah.
8.8.
All right,
So.
that's really easy. 8.8. It was at 100% for a long time on the tomato meter, and now it's at 99. There is one person as of this moment in time who does not like it. I'm guessing there might be more. I can't imagine why, but there's always got to be somebody to go and ruin the perfect number, and that is happening already. So it's great. It doesn't even come out until next week, February 16th, and so we're talking about this really early. They showed it to us very early because they knew they had something spectacular on their hands. So,
and apparently it's like, I think Fandango said it's their highest first quarter pre-sale ever.
It'll make $1 million. Oh wait, it'll make $1 billion. It's a lot of money.
It's the highest pre-sale of any superhero movie ever.
Right. Yes.
I know that. There's also that. Anyway, it's great. Please go see it and let us know what you think. Thanks. Bye.